So you just got to. I have some. But it's March, you know, it's. Reminds me. I'm gonna start going around. It's March 3. We used to. So when talks from it, they're back. Okay. The consultant special order. Yeah. The screen goes by. I just love it. Right, I have 4 online. You guys can all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
3 here, so we're almost.
Yes.
I'll be attending today. So roll. Or yeah, good for the record too. So attending the March 3rd Water Advisory Resources Committee meeting at DPW and on Zoom. Let's take a quick roll. Mark.
Here.
On.
Here.
D.
Here.
Mary. Can you hear us? Mary. We see that you're
Here.
on. Excellent. David. Here. Will. Here. And myself. George is not.
Enthusiastic. Just want to get the meeting.
All right, you're ready. So if you'd like to get started, I'll have you first on the progress report.
Thank you, Chairman. So regarding the water resource recovery facility permitting, we continue to work with a workshop, a working group with Mass DEP. We went over the plan we reviewed with the plan to do test pits and borings at the Bayberry Hills Golf Course. Attached to this progress report is a layout of some of the tests on the golf course itself. We've been coordinating that with the town's golf course supervisor, and they actually began borings last Thursday. So they're, I believe, right now doing some of the test pit and boring work. Our next workshop with Mass DEP, we pushed it back a little bit so we could get some information on accomplished this week. So we have a meeting next Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. Regarding the water resource recovery facility construction, CH Nickerson has mobilized. They are in the process of doing some initial earthwork on the site, as well as constructing the electrical feed and the duct bank for their temporary facilities for their trailers. They are discussing some value engineering opportunities with the town. So it's been quite encouraging that they're coming back with some ways of saving some money.
So we got to move off facility. The questions just to catch everybody up. How much more are we looking for to discharge? And
So we're currently permitted for 0.37 million gallons a day, 307. We're hoping to get an additional 1.5 MGD at Bayberry.
okay, so that 1.5 is when I was targeted for Bayberry. That's not our
So that would
total.
bring us a total of 1.8, 1.9.
Right. That gets us how close to total?
That gets us for phase 1.
We're hoping that's all of phase 1.
Yes.
Okay.
For the build out conditioning phase 1.
Talked about before, is once the facility is on the road, that we'd be able to demonstrate that the site can take more than 37 minutes permitted for, so you get a permit for additional flow at Buckeye as well.
The plant is rated at 1.8.
The
Space.
You want to put a little more meat on the bone for value engineering?
As far as what they're considering,
Yeah, what is it? I mean, we're not the only ones in the room.
no, you mean dollar amount or?
No, I mean,
I think they brought up some items on some interior concrete that was called out to be painted. They're asking if it's gonna be necessary to paint the interior cast in place concrete in some of the
okay, so creating value through engineering.
creating savings.
Saving money.
Uh,
Okay, got it. I'm asking sometimes questions that I'm figuring somebody's listening in on. May not understand.
Okay, I'm sorry, I was
Just
just,
sort of feel.
I thought you wanted some more specifics.
No, and I want to start at this point because we're still in the facility. If anybody wants to ask questions about the facility before we start moving on to the election system. Not for now. We'll come back to it later.
All right, moving on to page 2. So as we're all aware, we have 3 construction contracts underway. Contract 2 from Robert B. Hour is continuing on Old Main Street between Wood and Rush Street. There's also a 3-week look ahead attached to the progress report. It gives you an idea of what they're planning in the next 3 weeks. Contract 3 is contractor is Rivoli. They're continuing to work on South Shore Road and Seaview. Putting in gravity sewer and force main there. It's the deepest section of the sewer construction. So it's on South Shore, it's going fairly slow, but they are making some progress. Moving along, I think they moved away from the pump station now and are continuing to go up. Or I guess it would be east on South Shore. And once they finish Seaview, they'll be going west on South Shore from pump station site. And then on contract 4, Robert B. Hour is doing that work again. They have a crew on Route 28. They're trying to get everything accomplished from Old Main. It would be west to, they were right by the Ace Hardware as they were wrapping up. And they'll bring that all the way through to where they left off on the other project on Route 28. Then the plan is to flip over to the other side of Old Main and work towards Bass River Bridge, which I believe will start.
We'll start this week.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if they made it there.
So one of the good things we can report is that on Friday, Rivoli from contract 3 resurfaced 28 from Long Pond all the way to Seaview. And they're working on that final stretch between Seaview and Parker's River. I was just out there before the meeting, and I saw the paving machines out there as well. So the town's very concerned with the parade coming up and the condition of the road. So it seems like they did it. It's better than it was. It's actually not too bad. I was able to drive more than 5 miles an hour.
No, I was impressed with it. I've been avoiding that section till this weekend, and there it was on Saturday and Sundays. I was meant to ask who had done that. It wasn't you guys? It's your Rivoli.
No, the town had pushed Rivoli to make sure that that area was buttoned up prior to the parade, so.
Okay, so how do you contractor made it possible for the Irish parade? Beautiful.
It's not a one.
Maybe we should have a parade.
Yes, yes. We're gonna have the Caribbean parade next.
I vow.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Any questions on the east side of Parker's River before we go west? Thanks for taking that initiative to get that done. Parade is next week.
Saturday,
Right, it's coming weekend.
And then, Mike, would you mind giving an update on contracts 5, 6, and now I believe we have a contract 7, which we may be.
Absolutely, yeah, and we have some late breaking news, and I don't know, if Bob or Jeff want to chime in. So as we talked about before, contract 5 and 6, along with what we're calling contract 7, which is intended to be the remaining ad alternates that were part of contract 2 that weren't originally awarded with the original construction contract with RV Hour budgeting purposes. We had submitted those as part of the project evaluation form last August. In case, along with the plant, and we've talked about this before, in case any of those contracts didn't get executed by the DEP SRF deadline, which was originally June 30th. We got a series of extensions taking us through December 13th. As it turns out, contracts 5 and 6 weren't able to be awarded by those deadlines, so that therefore the intent was for them to be included in this upcoming round of SRF projects that would come out on the 2025 intended use plan. The draft plan came out on January 31st. The project was on that, however, it wasn't shown as being fully funded. It was estimated to be around 50 million. The price that they carried as the project cost was only 35 million, and of that 35, the draft intended use plan was showing only 20 of that 35 was going to be eligible for SRF funding under that particular cycle this coming year. So there's been a lot of discussions and letters and phone calls and meetings to get feedback to DEP in terms of the issues that was going to cause the town for moving the project forward and continuing on with progress with phase 1, because there's some uncertainty on how the projects are going to roll out. There were new provisions included in that draft IUP that DEP hadn't included before, and they indicated that they weren't going to, from the 2025 list, have any what they call multi-year carryover projects. So the original project included all of phase 1 that was submitted in 2023 for that SRF cycle is in fact what it's always been called a multi-year carryover project, because it's so large. It's $207 million, wasn't always, obviously wasn't all going to be incurred in one year. So that was included on the multi-year carryover list. So obviously some concerns on the town's behalf in terms of what the implications for contracts 5, 6, and 7 would be if they weren't going to be allowed to carry things over. There was a public hearing this afternoon. The DEP was taking verbal testimony in addition to written testimony that they were accepting until noontime today. The finance director had a number of calls with DEP last week over town's concerns about this situation as it relates to the overall program and contracts 5 and 6 in particular. The word that we got from DEP as of Friday was that DEP was going to allow the town to roll contracts 5, 6, and 7 back into the original 2023 SRF cycle, so that they would remove the project that was included on the draft list for this year's cycle, and then essentially put the town back where the project is all under their original SRF loan. Haven't gotten details in terms of the deadlines associated with that, but that would be, just something that we need to follow up. But overall, in my view, great news for the town, and that the project is whole again, that all 7 contracts are under one original 2023 intended use plan list, and then continue on. The town, and just as another follow-up point, another change that DEP had made in the last couple of years is they limited the town to all municipalities to $50 million in each year. And that's something that they started, I think, with the 2023 cycle, so that the town, it's essentially a $200 million project for talking purposes. So the town would be getting, $50 million each of 4 years as the program rolls out starting in 2023. So that's sort of an overview, maybe long-winded overview. I don't know, Bob or Jeff, you have more
Just checking.
details.
Everybody
on that.
follow? That sequence?
Hopefully, yeah.
It's great news. I mean,
It's
the
confusing.
long and short of it is because of the timing of those contracts and the change in the DEP rules, what they put at jeopardy, if we were on that 25 list, they agreed that a portion of it would be funded, but not all of it. So that we would have to apply again in 26. It was very messy. And I can't see how their logic would work that they would approve a portion of the project and then all of a sudden another portion is not. That would force us to go out to commercial lending at, high interest to get any remainder funding, but they sidestepped the entire issue by, despite our not meeting their initial deadlines on contracts 5 and 6 to issue those, that they still count them under our original 2023, so that's great news.
So you're comfortable this notification? I mean, we got it in writing?
Yeah, no, so far we got
Got an
an
email.
email and a phone call, but
Okay,
we like the
so-
concept.
A letter sounds even better,
We'll see when they issue.
or a memo, something on letterhead.
So they still have to issue the
Yeah.
final intended use
We just
plan.
gotta get the official hostage and.
What is the deadline for that? Do they have their own deadline to issue the final?
No, again, the deadline for submitting testimony was at
Oh, right.
noon today, then they had a public hearing at 1 o'clock. I don't know if you folks joined, but I
Yeah.
got word.
It's
Yeah.
a statewide perpetual program, which is going to change its modus operandi going forward. But for those of us who.
Or, but if it does it again, what do I do?
So, when I looked at your settings, it
Uh-huh.
said you weren't on the Wi-Fi.
No,
I know.
Are we just mute, Mary, is everybody just to mute everybody who's not?
I muted her.
Thank you.
For our immediate interests, 5, 6, and 7 were restored into the funding pool and round. So our financing is in place.
It's back to where it was
together
originally.
to get the project moving forward. But going forward, we will have to abide by whatever the rules are at that time in the future, which will change to some degree. And these are statewide programs, and they're dealing with municipal sewer projects all over the state. And they're not all $200 million projects. A lot of them are tiny and small. They still want to participate in this financing. So you got to have some sort of ground rule for participation, right?
And they always have, these are
Everybody's
just
going
new,
into
but
multi-year projects.
correct, but these only apply to this year's round. So the changes that they made to the program this year
Well,
weren't going to impact the 2023 loan, other than the fact how the.
no, I understand. What I'm suggesting is in 2025's round, it portends for future rounds, right? I mean, basically, the state says we don't have enough money to do everybody when they need it to be done. So we're gonna have to kind of buy in smaller pieces for.
Yeah, every year, obviously, you're subject to whatever the rules happen to be.
We're not
It's
also
just
gonna
this
get
was,
more money in that fund in the future.
yeah, whether they were just had concerns and were being conservative based on uncertainty with the new administration and whatnot, so they're trying to limit their group projects. I'm not sure how that factored into, but Bob said good news for the town and that it's all restored to the original 2023 loan.
That's our understanding. Another draft may be issued prior to the final. Yes, that's what.
I hadn't heard that. It's a possibility as well.
Question, I mean, it could be what you were gonna say anyway, but under contract 6, does that mean we can go back to the 19 million award? Do we have to rebid it?
Potentially, the contractor has issued a series of bid extensions to hold their bid price. So at this point, that price is good through the end of March. And they gave us a bid extension last week.
And contract 5 still has to be rebid.
Contract 5 needs to be rebid regardless.
And what's the timeline?
We still need some additional survey for one of the streets that the town wanted to add in. We were sort of in limbo, for lack of a better word, until the intended use plan came out and seeing how this whole issue got resolved, and it sounds like it has now, so we'll put together a schedule to get something out to bid next.
So do you think you'll still go back to your construction start date of fall of 2025?
Yeah, I mean, at this point for either contract 5 or 6, because we're so close to the shutdown, 90% of the work on both projects is in Route 28, so we can work after Memorial Day. Contract 5 does have the force main that runs up from 28 to the plant, so that's work that could potentially be timed
It's on
off season.
Winslow Gray? Or
Goes
that's
up.
on,
Goes up
Higgins
Winslow
Road.
Gray.
okay.
And for a couple neighborhood roads.
It's up to the log area and then there's the site. So.
Just come by my house soon.
That was gonna be my question. I mean, now we put the financing question aside for the moment. We have other bidding questions, contract questions that would delay their start time, but still targeting start dates in the fall.
At this point,
5, 6, and 7.
and that still jives with the treatment plant schedule, which
But
just
right, just generally speaking, within the confines.
subject to the bidding of
Right.
at least contract 5, if not both 5 and 6.
Is contract 5 the contract that also included the pump station that was under
That's contract 6.
so that's contract 6.
Contract 5
My bad.
is the
Okay.
Hawkins River crossing,
Yeah.
the pumping station 3 at the former drive-in site. And then sewer up to Higgins Crawl Road, from east of Higgins Crawl to Hawkins River. Contract 6 is everything west of Higgins Crawl, including 2 pumping stations, PS1 and PS2.
Who crunches the numbers? Everybody all together? Town? If these bids somehow push us over the
We've
line,
been keeping track of the numbers as well as
I mean,
the DPW and the finance director. So as amendments come into the
Mhm.
contracts 2
Right.
and 3.
question is getting me to what happens if we run past $270 million? You're gonna go back to town meeting?
We won't run past
We won't.
$210 million.
Okay,
But yeah, if we want more money, that would be a town meeting goal.
right.
We don't.
So then my subsequent
There's a
question would be
voter on town
timing
meeting
wise,
for
right? You can't anticipate running past that number until we actually run past that number. So the earliest we could possibly go back to town meeting would be next fall. So we couldn't really even start, if that were to happen, we couldn't start in the fall with these contracts, but we're not gonna run past the 207 authorization.
Right, and if we needed a special town meeting, I mean, we could have a special town meeting. There's nothing that's, I mean, if you're talking hypothetical situations here.
Oh, we just took a big what if off the table with the SRF question being kind of addressed, right? And which making sure we don't get caught in a time crunch with a bid that pushed us over, and we don't have the authorization, and we're gonna do something, we get the bid started, and then delay it until the spring of
Yeah,
26.
I mean, I would say I would strenuously work to avoid any delays,
Mr. Chairman, quick question. Has there been a resolution to the pump station issue?
you know.
Okay, and we're still optimistic about starting in the fall of 2025 despite that. As we sit here today.
Yes.
Okay, I think that's important, just I imagine it's on other people's minds, and I would think that that would be a reasonable thing to just expect those questions until hopefully there's a positive answer with some movement. Thank you.
Any questions from the guys online? 5, 6, and 7? And gals, we all still here?
No,
You guys want to add anything? Like you kind of.
No, I think that's,
Push the minute.
that's my report.
We didn't use the slides, but basically went over the slides.
We did, the only thing I'll add on there is on the last slide, and Lou touched on this just to give you a quick update on the Bayberry Hills site work. actually last Wednesday, so DEP came out to the site just to sign off on the locations for the proposed borings, test pits, monitoring wells. You can see there's a series of each of those that are intended to be implemented. As of Friday, I haven't gotten today's update, but as of Friday, they completed 4 of the borings in 1 of the monitoring wells. This Thursday, they're scheduled to dig the test pits, or restart the test pits. And those predominantly going to be over in the driving range area. And DEP is going to be back out to witness those, as well as Board of Health to witness the park tests. So that's happening this Thursday.
So did you guys all have your clubs?
Some extra holes out there.
See the chart?
So
Not yet.
not a bad time of year to do a perk test.
I'm sorry?
Not that bad a time to do a perk test.
Yeah, the intent obviously is to get this work done before season.
No, it's just lucky, I mean, weather-wise. You're not getting pulled up.
Other than that, I believe everything else we covered.
Okay, any other questions you have of our consultants? None here.
Nope.
I have a question. My audio isn't all that good, so I want, can you all hear me?
I'm clear.
Thank you. I just want to make sure that I'm understanding what's being discussed with contracts 5, 6, and 7. Is it that we are now going to go ahead on what was the original schedule in light of this new news?
Not exactly.
Well, yes, we're free now to bid contract 5, and then once a decision is made on the pumping station location, contract 6, at that point, the town will make a decision on how to proceed with that contract.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I'm not hearing too well.
I'm
So,
sorry,
John, I think we're on track currently for starting construction for those contracts in the fall.
yeah,
But you said original schedule, and I think the original schedule had us starting those this spring. So that's where there's
okay, okay,
clarification, but
okay,
we're on to a fall start at this point.
okay. So both 5 and 6 would be under construction in the fall of this year?
that's the
That's the
plan,
plan.
yes.
Okay, great, thanks.
Okay, guys, have addressed any regulatory permitting issues that have arose, and should probably move on to the project on the street. Public safety, communications, you hearing anything at our department level from folks using the streets under construction other than usual chatter?
I would say the usual comments, and it's, I think, important to get the word out as soon as possible. With construction, it's dynamic, but at least as it relates to the most recent Passover Bridge closure today and in a couple of weeks, Robert B. Howard did a good job of projecting when that would be necessary, because that is a component that we needed to get approved through Mass DOT and coordinate with the town of Dennis. So that was a pretty big effort. That wasn't just a, small local detour. And so I think it's gone as well as could be expected, given the complications and the magnitude of it.
The last couple of meetings, we've been talking about how we field public comment or public questions. And yeah, we can put information on the website if people still gonna wanna plug in somewhere. Do we actually have a wastewater hotline?
We do, it's the same as the water hotline. And, you happen to know that on top of your head?
508-771-7921, and you press 1. This is after hours. If you call during the daytime, you get a actual staff person.
So it's the water department's.
It's the same line as that.
Yes.
Line, yeah. So we're asking how this is, what we're getting in terms of public, incoming, that's where it's coming and you guys would know.
Yeah, so we also have the wastewater email address that we're looking to get, steer people to that as well. So we get a fair amount of traffic on both. And also, frankly, Brian's cell phone number has made its way out to some people that need that as well. So there's plenty of ways to get home.
And he's participated in some one-on-one, meetings and things, and sometimes there's an issue that rises, higher than he can solve, and he's participated on, sort of, we have a system now, elevates it to the next level, and I became aware of, one of these situations, and then we got the wastewater superintendent, the ombudsman, Ryan, and also, the police department, and we conducted, one-on-one sort of triage sessions with individual businesses that had concerns, and we were very happy to see that because of the timing of the project, we were able to resolve those concerns moving forward. Of course, it's been a long winter. So, a lot of people are wondering, when's it gonna stop? And so we're able to give them that information. A lot of it's being posted, but a lot of it's being handled one-on-one situations. And when Ryan needs help, we're all there. We have a whole team, whether it's, Jeff and his crew, the police, my office, we set up meetings with anyone who was interested in, in addition sessions for businesses in general.
What we mostly have been hearing about it, then the road closure detours, confusion with local access. Better? This last time we went over this?
A little better, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's a little bit better. Certainly having the meeting with the business community, hearing their concerns. Based upon that, adding additional supervisors with the police details so they can review signage and better coordinate some of those detours has helped.
And getting people in and out of specific businesses that needed help. I mean, sometimes all of the information that's out there, what we found, you gotta just sit down with these people, review actual real-time live problems and get people down there solving them. And so we did a little of that. Be a lot better if we worked there, believe me.
Any questions, guys? All right, moving on. We discussed the revolving loan fund. We were asked to take a look at, and we were gonna figure out how to best participate in the septic tax credit proposal that's out there. Everybody remember what that is?
Yeah, and I emailed the guy from Falmouth twice and still waiting to hear back.
So the guy from Falmouth, being the state representative of proposal
No.
legislation?
It was the guy who wrote the letter to us, he's on their wastewater committee, John Kaufman. Emailed the wastewater quality management committee in Falmouth and waiting to hear back.
This refers to an actual bill.
Yeah, I did talk to both Biggs and Flanagan because they're out of town, and they both actually Flanagan. He's the one who told me about the bill months ago. So they're still pushing through it. I think I met with him 2 Saturdays ago. Yeah, 2 Saturdays ago, and they're pushing ahead, to try to get it going, but the point that the guy from Falmouth is that he's trying to make the bill so that more people are eligible than just people who have there are a number of people, especially retired people, who don't pay a lot of state tax.
You cannot use the tax credit.
And then wouldn't be able to use it, so they want to figure out a way. I have to be one of those, but they are trying to figure out a way. So if you're on social security and you're on state pension, then you don't pay state tax, and then you can get a credit if you don't pay it.
Fair enough. It hasn't been in the headlines. It's out there, so yeah, sure, we're gonna be talking about this again
So I'll keep
going forward.
going forward and keep getting
I
that.
have another legislative issue, you want on that subject.
Just one last thought. I don't think it's primarily that I don't pay state income tax. Constituency as much as there's a lot of people that don't pay a lot of state tax, cannot take full advantage of the tax credit.
So it's both those, yeah, I'm
Right, so that's a big number too.
That's a very good point, because
It
it has to come off taxes.
was a credit. I mean, you want to start a secondary market and sell credits to each other? I think that's it. But I think the state is typically loath to send out a check and they can just have it deducted from your refund. Sorry, Bob, go ahead.
No, I just wanted to make everyone aware that right here on the Cape, we had there was a statewide listening session for there's a massive new environmental bond bill that the state, the administration is working on the bones of right now. And so in our listening session, that is, I thought some pretty good leadership from throughout Cape Cod. And I wanted to make you aware is that there is a pretty major proposal that's aimed at trying to recapitalize the state revolving loan fund so that we can avoid some of the problems that have come up in the draft. And I think as the federal funding situation gets a little bit clearer and also some new state money, but it is proposed to have some, a major piece of the environmental bond bill help recapitalize SRF, at least we made that pitch. And a couple of things that were, from the individual communities, I had recommended that they put in the bond bill a program that will assist communities in the groundwater recharge issues in terms of conducting all of this analysis. I mean, this is a tremendous amount of cost now that was not there when we started this program for getting the permitting for the groundwater discharge. And it's in the state's interest to facilitate those discussions, because without that discharge in the volumes that are requested, not just from Yarmouth, but from communities throughout Cape Cod, we will not be able to meet the state's watershed guidelines. So the two go hand in hand. It's not really at this point anymore about treatment, it's really more about the discharge. And so that was a proposal that I had made, and there were other, I thought, very good proposals. And a lot of its discussion revolved around wastewater issues. So we're hoping that there will be additional financial assistance in the overall big picture associated with the new environmental bond bill. It was nice to be able to speak with the statewide leaders right here on the Cape at the bus. So that was something we did last week.
So listening tour, was it on the Cape?
Yes, it was at the Mary Pat Flynn conference room at Barnstable County, where that is up on hill.
The old jail.
The old jailhouse.
We were all tripping over each other trying to get our name on that building, but it was very bad.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, thanks for that. It was good to know they're on the road coming out and talk to us once in a while or something like that. That would have probably been completely overlooked unless you brought it up. It's kind of segues into the next item, which is public comments. There's a point of this agenda, we really take public comments, but we're somewhat of an acquired taste. I think the public is really anxious to talk to us here at these meetings. So last meeting, we talked about maybe going out to the public again and engaging with them, answering their questions at a specific time and place as a committee. So bear with me for a second as I kind of put this out there. Is there something that that will come up at town meeting on April 29th. That would having a public session on the wastewater project be helpful towards?
I don't think so. I mean, the only tangential things is, we're gonna put another, I think, 2 million into the wastewater stabilization fund, but that's just a
Just moving money aside.
commonplace, yeah, and there is the additional funding for the water mains on Route 28, but that's just so that it can move ahead at the same time as wastewater, isn't it? But I don't think we have any real wastewater stuff on there.
I haven't been paying close attention to the warrant, so there isn't any wastewater stuff specifically. Is there anything else that might come out? Start yelling at it about?
Well, the Dennis thing hasn't really, but that, that bridge, that's always. I almost recommend that we wait till we get closer to shutting down for the summer and then. Then talk to people. It's a lot of what we talk about is the traffic inconvenience and, because it's very inconvenient and there's no way to make it convenient. So,
The reason I'm proposing it in this fashion is to sort of give it a pressure relief valve between now and April 29th. If you think of any of these concerns are going to crop up at town meeting, you can address them before then and not infect town meeting with that type of dynamic that you don't need because the articles are pretty straightforward. We're just here to do business. Somehow it gets sidetracked onto these other kind of concerns. We're available if we would like to go out and engage the public on any of what we're responsible for and away from the town meeting setting. Having said that, it's April 29th, so it would be the next couple of months we would put ourselves out there for something like that. We decided 6 months ago not to do that, and in lieu have public comments here. But if there's a good reason to do it, we were willing to go back out there. So at the moment, I'm not hearing a big request to go out there, but we're available, I guess. For that purpose. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yes,
We'll go out and do a public session if, especially if we see the need. But it seems like both the department and the folks working on this project have been addressing the concerns as they come up. And it hasn't really been a big need to go out there yet. As long as contract 6 gets resolved. It's that still hanging out there on April 29th, we might have an issue.
Yeah, and we are committed to meeting with the business community and other affected property owners for contracts 5 and 6 when there's some certainty as to what the timing is. I think that's worked out well, having the contractor available. So once we have contractors that are fully on board for those contracts, we have a definitive schedule for the fall. We'll look to meet. Don't know exactly what the best time frame is going to be. We've worked very closely with Mary Vilbon and helping pick what dates work for that community.
Anybody want to bring anything up that's not on the agenda today? Before we take any votes on minutes, can we jump to meetings? Kind of ties in with this April 29th town meeting. Tuesday, it's 8 weeks between now and April 28th. We could get 2 meetings in before town meeting. If you're willing to go on March 31st and April 28th. I would sort of position us the day before. I'm sure Jeff's not going to be happy to be here that day if you're preparing for town meeting, but it's an opportunity to have a meeting scheduled in case you want to meet before town meeting. Or we can keep with our practice, which is the first Monday of the month, which pushes us to April 7th. So
Which would be the purpose of the 2 meetings.
if we would like to get a second meeting or a meeting just before town meeting, in other words, if you meet April 7th, you don't meet again until May 5th, you just blew past the town meeting.
That doesn't sound like there's a whole lot
Yeah.
But so I
Otherwise,
would prefer sticking to the April 7th. Suppose if emergency came up, we could have. That's my opinion.
that's why I suppose in that question. Anyway, if you spread it out 4 weeks and 4 weeks, you get 2 of them in just before town meeting. If you want to wait 5 weeks, in 4 weeks, you're meeting the Monday after town meeting.
Having said that, I was hearing. So.
Works out well.
You're asking the band to play the tune that you're not gonna be dancing.
I could be on.
Yeah, I mean, no, look. I don't want to characterize this as a well-oiled machine. I mean, there's gonna be lots of bumps along the road here before we get this done, but as these issues have been coming up. And both the contractors who work on it and the staff that works with the town, it seems to get pretty well addressed pretty quickly. Town manager knows that there were field meetings between the water superintendent and the business owner. I happen to know of them as well. I'm impressed. Because sometimes you don't get that memo.
Yeah, no, I've attended some, not all of them, but I mean, just know, this is our attitude, every single one of us were available, and when these problems and issues come up, whether it's, the chief of police, he'll be there with like moments notice, whether it's, Jeff and Laurie, all of us were, we're pitching in, and we have the front lines. But I think that's how it's successful, is that we're there to monitor it and be able to pitch in. And sometimes people need that, because when you get to a level of frustration, poor Ryan, he can give them information, but it's not like they're meeting with the town manager, the chief of police, and the DPW. Sometimes, it's just needed.
So, hearing that April 7th would be our next best meeting time. So. Anything else? If nothing else, we can talk about the meeting minutes from February 3rd. Everybody get a chance to look at them? Anybody, if you're all okay with it, anybody want a motion to approve?
So move.
Seconded,
second,
thank you. Let's see, Mary,
aye,
Lee,
Aye.
Mark. In favor, Mark,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
David,
Aye.
Will,
Aye.
and myself, thank you.
Mr. Chairman, can I raise just 2 issues?
Please do.
Just to follow up on what you had previously asked, I would agree that we stick with the meeting schedule. If we need a special emergency meeting or whatever, we do that. The second question is a little larger in scope. I would assume that once we have all the contracts underway, at that time is when we start to sit down and look and see if we're going to proceed to phase 2 and funding, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Is that about the picture?
Sure. I don't know how, I wouldn't know how to answer that, other than to say, you want to start talking about phase 2 at the next meeting? So it gives everybody a shot to sort of think about.
Well, I mean, we can, it's certainly in concept, but I would think we want to have everything nailed down in phase 1 first, but that's just my take on it.
Yeah, so the next planning, major planning milestone is to do our watershed permits and look at the phasing. So it's possible that as that'll have the phase map in here, that's the phase 1 map, but it's possible, phase 2 needs to be tweaked a little bit in order to meet those watershed permit requirements. We talked a little bit about that in that 2 of our watersheds from preliminary calculations looks like they meet the nitrogen removal requirements that are under these new watershed permits, but Bass River needs some adjustments to make sure it meets those timeframes. And so it's likely we'll need to tweak that phasing as part of the watershed permit process over this next year. So it's probably not something we'd be nailing down in the next 6 months, but certainly could start to talk about that and consider what that might look like in the future. But it's closer to the next year as we file the watershed permits, we'll have to start nailing that down.
Jeff, when I say phase two, I don't necessarily mean what was mapped out as phase two, but exactly what you said, what that next area is, if you will. Yeah, I got you. So you're looking at roughly 6 months to a year down the road then.
Yeah, and I think that would also work out well with the construction timing too. We'll have a better handle at that point on the costs and knowing what the next chunk of funding might look like and how we can craft those, adjust those phases accordingly.
Understand. Thank you.
Thanks for bringing that up, Mark. It's always kind of in the back of our minds, what's next? This one's a little bit further out there. I would even take it one step further and say we start talking about phase two, kind of have to start talking about the whole rest of the project. Because you can't really just commit to one more phase. You kind of have to look at it as a part of the whole 8-phase, 40-year project as well. It'd be a shame to get started and only get so far. You thought about how you get to the end, or you get to remediate the whole problem, right? Partial remediation here is almost like no remediation at all. We ended up with
Well, we gotta fill up the phase one plan. That's what our first goal is.
Agreed, but the ultimate, the point of this whole exercise is to get to the remediation of TDML so that we're out from under violating environmental laws. If we get stuck at phase one, we have a beautiful economic development project running up and down Route 28, but we haven't remediated the problem. We would be, let's get to 2 so we get to 3, so we can get to 8, not just. And I suspect hidden in that answer is the $64 million question. It all depends on watershed permitting at this point.
Mr. Chairman,
Um,
I just wanted to chime in here a little bit. Have we thought about changing priorities with regard to phases at all? I mean, have there been any issues that present itself to consider other priority phases? A variation from the original, layout of the phases, number one. And, I understand that what Jeff is saying, we got to get through the next 6 months. And what Bob is saying is we want to nail down all of phase one and get beyond that. I'm just thinking in terms of laying out the funding for the next phases and also considering other things that may have come about since we laid out those original phases as to, is there any advantage to looking at other phases or that might come before the next phase that we had mapped out? And in terms of funding issues and in terms of income to the town, or like Jeff said, priorities in terms of permitting issues. So my question is, I guess what we're saying is there's no rush on this, but we need to take care of phase one first. But once we move on, we're going to start discussing where the next phase is going to start and when. and how you're gonna finance it.
I would always defer to the experts in answering that question. That's why I kind of suggested we put it on the agenda and sort of think about how we're going to address this. You're pointing to a much bigger conversation about where exactly should the next phase be and what configuration. It's not as easy as just flipping 2 for 4 or 5 for 6. You know, as we go forward, are we redrawing these lines? Is the guiding principle financial or is it environmental? Or are you trying to get the biggest bang out of both at the same time? Do we have new restrictions with the funding constraints that are being proposed by the states? If you bite 50 million million off at a time. I mean, there's a lot of these kind of moving parts. And my suggestion is like throw it up in the air and let's talk about them as opposed to sticking to a hard and fast plan that may no longer suit our need.
Right. I wanted to comment on one more thing, if I could.
Comment on your comment, please. Before we go on to
Go
the
ahead,
next,
Dave.
can I just comment on your comment?
Sure.
Thank you. I just want to put a warning out there that people have voted lots of money to go with phases out. And suddenly, if you're in phase 2 and you're being moved to phase 3 or 4, I think we would run into problems, and I think we need to be aware of that. That's all I want
Right.
to say. Go ahead,
I
Larry.
think we need to talk that out. I'm not sure that all of
But-
phase 2 is appointed if they're not phase 2.
We need to go through
I think
anger
there's-
denial.
I think the guys who are seeing bodies of water. What's better to eutrophy? Probably is concerned about, you know.
Well, phase 2 is around Lewis Bay, so. That's
True.
a period of that.
We're not gonna start a 28, excuse me, a Bass River. We're not gonna start a watershed competition in the middle of this, right?
But, you know, over the years, people have been math. They say this is phase 2, they live in phase 2. They're waiting for phase 2. I hear it all the time from my neighborhood. I just want to put that out there.
And
That's it. I'm done.
I'm with you.
But the other issue,
Yeah.
other issues that are coming about,
I think we have to wait 40 years for Bass River.
but there are other issues that come about as to what's going in the ground having an effect on, say, our water supply wells. Are there, you know, where, and the issues with what's going in the ground, like PFAS or nitrogen affecting critical groundwater supply issues. And all I'm saying is, as time goes on, the priorities may shift based on several factors that maybe we didn't take into account when the original phases were laid out, such as the environmental impacts on our groundwater, our water supply wells, or the fact that there may be some advantages to supplying sewers to an area that might be advantageous to the town to take care of first because of financial issues for commercial areas or some new developments in, say, housing or something like that. So I'm not suggesting that that we're going to be committing or somehow having watersheds competing with each other. It's all inclusive of the priorities that develop as we move forward in time and what happens in the environment.
I think we all agree with that. Lee?
Okay.
Jeff has to leave. Anybody needs Jeff for anything, he's leaving, so.
Mr. Chairman, it's fair to say that this conversation speaks like a fall of 2025 conversation for all the reasons already listed, but I'm happy to hear that we're at least started to think about the conversation we need to have in 6 months, given all the moving pieces of all this that we still haven't settled yet. But I think it would it would be a mistake not to see where we are in 6 months, take a look at the phases as originally proposed many years ago. And then, like Lee said, and others have said, despite individual neighborhoods and what their expectations are, those have to be reconciled with current reality, as opposed to what reality was X number of years ago. That doesn't mean that anything actually net will happen, but it does mean we, as this group in particular, need to have the responsibility to have that conversation. Thank you.
Anything?
Well
from-
said.
Thanks, Lee, for getting our juices going there for a minute. Mr. Bishop, you want to report anything?
We're on schedule. Going well. Made some interesting discoveries on the Route 6 bridges on Friday, but that's not really related to this.
Okay.
Did I not, you have any other? Did I not be glad you?
Whole neighborhood.
So just to give you a plug, did you get your info online?
Sure.
At?
PrinceofMassRiver.org.
Thank you. And I have a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Lee,
Aye.
Mark,
Aye.
Don,
Aye.
Mary has left us.
But she voted. That was her.
David, Will,
Sorry, aye.
and I'm good too. Thanks for coming. And see you April 7th.
Yeah. Yeah. Just,